Want to go grab? All right. I don't mind. We have the mic on anyway. Oh, you can't hear well? Now you need a hearing aid? No? Okay. Bismillah. So we specifically delayed this week with no outdoor program, but I think that caused fewer people to come because people at least come late to the... Yeah, over there. In the back, all the way in the back. Anyway, let's go ahead. I'm going to start flying through some of these earlier chapters because it's... Later, okay? Because it all deals with the same concepts about just his upbringing. So we're not going to stay the entire time on one chapter. I'm going to try to cover 3 chapters today. And what that does is it allows for us to get a greater picture of everything that happens in the upbringing of that particular, of Khabib Nurmagomedov, Habib Nur Muhammad. Again, I have a student in 9th grade right now. His name is Magomed. I asked him what his name is. He said it's Muhammad. Like, why do you spell it Magomed? He said it's just easier for Russians to pronounce, but between Muslims we say Muhammad. Nur Magomed, it's going to be Nur Muhammad. The OV, he explained to me, I can't remember exactly what he said. Khabib is Habib. He said the Kha, that's just how we speak. So it was an interesting conversation we had. Anyway, coming back to this. So we left off last week talking about the first couple of chapters, this whole idea of how they were raised in the mountains and how the mountains, they develop students. They develop the... It's going to be a problem that they're... No? Okay. Because I might have to go then. How last week we talked about how when they're being raised up in... No, let's say let them do what they have to do. Being raised in the mountains, it helped develop them to be the way they are. And where you live, it develops you. We spoke specifically about how in Africa and the regions I lived in before, that when people would walk and run, it developed their feet to be a certain way. And there was a sense of fortitude that they had. It's almost like a type of, hey guys, Zayd has to do his Quran homework, so let Zayd do his work. You guys do what you have to do, okay? I can't have you guys serve as a distraction, so just do what you're supposed to do, and then let me do this, okay? How it developed them to be a certain type of people. Where you live has a direct influence on how you're going to be. I was speaking to one of my classes in school during the week about how you see in certain mountainous regions that people are, how would you say it, in the ones that are more like in some of these nature documentaries, those who live in regions that are almost like a steep cliff, that they're not going to be large like other mountainous regions. They're very tall and very broad and well built. Rather, they're very wily and they're very thin and they're very lean. And the reason for that is because to be able to traverse those different, to traverse that landscape, to go vertical rather than going horizontal, it requires a certain type of body type. You see even the way our skin complexions are. People from certain regions will have one type of complexion versus another region. The way you live develops who you are and how you are. Hamna Khadija Anas, you have to do this in the back, not up here, okay? It develops you to be how you are. It also develops your character. It develops the way you behave. When we see the Prophet ﷺ, the way he lived in... Oh, okay guys, come over here. The way he lived in Makkah al-Mukarramah. Why do people have a hard time approaching the Arabs to conquer them? Well, the Arabs had a certain type of... The Arabs had a certain type of demeanor that was based upon the climate. The climate was harsh. So they themselves were known to be a bit of a harsh people. The climate also was one that was hard to conquer and overcome. And similarly, you had historically Alexander the Great came to the frontiers of Arabia and said, I'm not going to go any further. There's nothing worthwhile here. But when you fought the Arabs, it was very, very difficult to overcome the Arabs. They were very strong people. It matched their climate. What Khabib is mentioning over here in the first few chapters was the experiences that he had. Politically, geographically. Politically, there were people who on multiple occasions they tried to conquer this land. Now, why did they try to conquer this land? Well, very simply, it was a gateway into the Caspian, into different regions that would give them an edge. And so you had both Muslims and non-Muslims. You had Muslim extremists who tried to come and conquer this area. And so you had secularists try to conquer this area. And so you had from this crises that would occur. And when there's a crisis, what happens is that with every darkness there comes a light. Every time the sun sets, it reaches its darkest point right before it rises in the morning, right before dawn in the morning. Anas, in this area, okay? Right before it begins to come up in the morning. Well, similarly, when they reached their down point, and there was a lot of difficulty and there's a lot of confusion, then the rising of that sun occurred in the form of Imam Shamil, rahmatullahi alayhi. And we spoke about Imam Shamil. This is the great patriotic war. Khabib Nurmagomedov's grandfather, Magomed, Muhammad is the actual way that they would pronounce it. He was one of the. He was a worker. He was a farmer, but he was also one of those who, if there was a picture online, you can see of his great grandfather, who was one of the students of Imam Shamil. He was one of the spiritual disciples of him, and one of those who fought alongside of him as well. And so there was a family honor that began to come down generation by generation by generation. And though themselves they weren't warriors anymore, there was an element of being warriors within them. And so there were people who enjoyed to be physically fit. There were people who enjoyed to have a strong spirit and a strong soul, spiritually and physically as well. And he mentions that, when you live in the mountains, it seems like a very romantic reality. But it's not as romantic as it seems. Sometimes you look at these pictures and there's the sun setting or rising over the mountains. It seems extremely romantic. But it's not as romantic as it seems. It's actually very difficult. Well, why is it difficult? The reason it's difficult is because, he mentions, you get up before dark. Hamna Khadija Anas, quiet down just a little. Thanks. You get up before dark. Before dark meaning like before the last darkness, before the dawn. And at that point, they go to begin to tend to the livestock. They begin to give food to the animals. Then they begin to work on the terraces. And you're not doing this in flat land. So it's dark outside. Your eyes have to become adjusted. There's a whole debate. Why is Khabib's nicknamed the eagle? In these fighting circles, you have these nicknames by which people are known for. Some people said that, it's because he's eagle-eyed. He's able to see small openings. And they say that he gets that from his upbringing where he had to work in darkness. Others say that no, it's because Dagestan's the land of eagles, which he himself says that's really the reason why. That's like their national bird, and it's like the land of eagles. But they had this eyesight, this eagle-eye eyesight. Why? Because they would walk through these difficult regions. Us, even in our own homes that we know at the back of our hands, you get up at night to get water, you bump into something. But their eyes were extremely developed, and they had to be developed because there's these slopes and these falls that your life was put in risk by trying to traverse at night. And so these are the conditions that his ancestors lived. Finally, his father, born in 1962. Guys, quiet down just a little. Khadija Anas. You're too loud, okay? Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. So Khadija Anas, yes, play, but I just need you to be a little less loud, okay? Thank you. Do you have to use the restroom?
No.
Yes? Okay, why don't you go use the restroom, okay? Zayd, help him out using the restroom. He knows how to use it, but just be by the door in case he needs anything. Anas, go ahead. So his father, second in the family, 1962 was born. This is the time where the migration occurs. What's this migration? It's hard for the government to keep them in the mountainous regions. Why? Because resources are getting harder and harder to pull in, to be able to cultivate there. So they have to now move into mainstream life. It doesn't mean they're coming to the city itself. They're still going to live a bit of a rural lifestyle, but they're going to move to farms. So the lifestyle will still be harsh. So Khabib, as he's eventually born, not yet, he's going to be living part of his life in the mountains and part of his life in the farmlands. The mountains, why? That's where his father grew up. The farmlands, why? That's where his father spent the latter part of his life. And that's where Khabib is introduced. Now, Khabib's father, yes. Say it again. Okay, you can go. tell Zayd the Baba said you have to use the restroom? Go. Sometimes the help is the biggest problem. So anyway, coming back. So when they moved, now Khabib's father and his eldest brother, they are living in a place that they're not accustomed to. And that's one thing I want you guys to really take in consideration. You know, any type of migration, and we spoke about this briefly last week, is something that you have to give credit to. Our parents leaving where they left and coming over here, that's something you have to credit them with. You know, they're leaving from a foreign land. They're leaving from... Akram? Oh, what's up, brother? How you doing? Man, mashallah. Back from Ohio? Where?
I'm in Berlin.
Berlin, I don't even know what that is. But maybe, oh, okay, I know what that is. Wow, dude, what's up? Oh, mashallah, mashallah. Oh, the old Milwaukee connection. Nice, nice. I was like, he's a handsome individual, but it can't be him. It is him. Mashallah, welcome. Ahlan bikum, man. When'd you move?
About a month and a half ago.
Nice, nice, nice. Awesome, alhamdulillah. One of our workout partners back in the day, and one of our Milwaukee residents, mashallah. Working out around 2:15 today if you guys want to come. Is that at 2:15 or 4:15? I have to check with the other guys. So if you guys want to come by. We'll bring back the old memories, inshallah. Someone will throw up, someone will be lazy. It'll be perfect, just like the good old days. Koshal won't be there though. So. Oh, really? Live is not working. That's a good point. I don't think the live is working. Do you know how to get it going? No, neither do I. Is your father here? It's working? Oh, there you go. Oh, you're on the Dar es-Salaam website. That's the problem. Competitors. No. Anyway, coming back. They're not competitors, guys. Just joking. May dua for the father, Misbah uncle, who's fighting COVID complications. May Allah grant him complete cure. So we have to give credit to people. You know, sometimes when you get frustrated with people, like your own parents, take into consideration all the hardship they underwent to get you here in the first place. Khabib's father over here, he's making a midlife transfer from mountainous life, same area. He's not leaving Dagestan, but he's just going from the mountainous region to the farming region. But that's a big change. What they knew now is being put behind them. Some people, they come from overseas. They're medical professionals overseas. They're working Uber over here. Nothing's wrong with Uber. I'm not putting it down. But they're just not accustomed to it. But they're doing it for their kids. Some people, they leave their homes where they're farmers, and they're coming here and they have to become overtly technical, and that's not their mizaj. That's not how they are. We have to give them credit. We can't look at the end product and criticize. We have to look at the initial product and begin to compliment and appreciate. And that's where we fall short as children, and we have to do so. My father in America had in India had one lifestyle. When he came here, it's a different lifestyle. So Khabib, he sees this now. And so, Anas, please quiet down. Thank you. This is how they begin to grow. Now, the next thing is that he speaks about their family. I'm going to the next chapter, chapter 2. And one of the things that was very important in their family early on was education. Now, being educated has a certain stigma and a certain stereotype attached to it over here today. We assume people who are educated fall into a specific physical category, a specific clothing-based category, a specific socioeconomic category, and that's not true. Education is a right and a requirement for life. If you do not know how to do something, you're never able to accomplish it. So education is a right and it's a requirement. If I don't know, for example, how to read, I don't forget about being educated. What I mean by educated is by like going to school and receiving a degree. I can't even do some of the basics. Yes? You can, but be very careful and don't run up and down. You can go sit, okay? Okay, you can go sit there. Okay, now come down, and we're done. Yes? Okay, thanks. They put a lot of emphasis on education. His grandfather himself, from a mechanic, he was from a farm. He became a mechanic, and that's a type of education. That's an important lesson we have to take away from here. Do not consider an education just a PhD or MD. Those are great. Do not consider an MED or a BA or a JD. Those are great. All of these things that allow a person to live life and prosper is considered education. Someone who learns how to fix ceiling fans, for example, is much more educated than I am, at least in the area of ceiling fans. Well, I happen to be educated in the area of education and English education in particular because that's my background. And your background might be, for example, some of you are highly educated in basketball. You might laugh at it, but you are. You know names and pronunciations, you know statistics, you know moves, you know all those things. You are educated in the field. So when we belittle education and make it only a degree, it's problematic. And when we don't give education its due, because if you say education is only a degree, then are we going to say some of our grandmothers were uneducated? No. Is our prophet uneducated? No. He was unlettered, but he was very educated. Give education its due requirement and place in society. Then, to hire your education has its place as well. In Khabib's family is very big on hiring your education as well. Meaning what? Take it from that which will make you functional to that which will make you professional and successful in different areas. And that's one thing about Khabib. Anas, sit properly please. About Khabib Nur Muhammad, Khabib Nurmagomedov, is that when we see his business sense, that came strictly from the fact that he was very educated and his family had that as sort of a trait from the very, very beginning. Khabib, he started his own company, he started his own product line, he has his own fighting championship. Again, I'm not supporting fighting. I told you guys in the very beginning, I'm going to call out that which is not correct. And we don't support striking in the face, we don't support any of that. Submission is fine, wrestling's fine, grappling is fine. Anas, I want you to sit down over here, okay? Okay, I need you to sit down for a couple minutes and calm down, okay? Those things are fine. Khadija, you'll be next unless you quiet down, okay? But to encourage striking in the face, Islamically is not permissible. I'm just going to be very open, it's not permissible. I also gave you as the caveat in the very beginning that he's from a warring region. In warring regions, sometimes they'll have a lot more leniency when it comes to combat and fighting than areas like us that are, Anas, no? And I see you behave properly, then I'll let you go, okay? Sit down, behave properly, thank you. Then non-warring regions like us. Like, we're on chapter 6 in my other halaqah that speaks about Khabib's father and some stories. There's some really cool stories about his dad. All of them have to do with beating someone up. But again, his father is highly educated from a professional perspective as well. But younger, there was some altercations he got into for good reason to protect his mother, etc. Move back, please. Let him calm down. Move back. He needs to calm down, okay? Those are interesting scenarios. So in our other halaqah, which we'll do with you guys when we get to chapter 6, I asked everyone, think back to a moment where your father made you very proud. And the exercise was basically, remember this moment. Anytime your father makes you upset in the future, remember this moment and allow things to balance out. But everyone thought of something that was it was debate-based and it was academic, etc. People couldn't think of a lot of physical endeavors their fathers have done because we live in a different area. Yes? Yes, but you have to behave well, and you will behave well.
We're laughing.
Laughing's fine, but laugh quietly, okay? Because over here, people are reading Quran, they're listening. Go. Yes. Now, his grandfather worked on a farm, and he dealt with heavy machinery, and he was a mechanic. And that was something that was highly sought after in that region because more and more families had come from the mountains into the farms. And so his grandfather learned to farm, but also learned to help people who would farm. I'm going to move on from that just because I don't want to... here, hold on. There we go. So his father saw his grandfather... Khadija, you need to move. You knocked on my mic. Thank you. His father saw his grandfather be successful. His father also wanted to make his own mark. So what his father began to get interested was something called sport. He was very, very good at sports and very, very good at schools. In one paragraph, Khabib mentions that father finished 8th grade receiving 1 mark of 4 and the 10th grade of 2 4s, the highest standard marks that you can receive. Getting good marks at school was not his sole aim in life at that time. From the 7th grade onwards, he began to build, as they say, a track record of achievements in sports at the school, both at the district and Republican levels, meaning Republican, not like partisan Republican, the country level, the state level. Long story short, he was a good athlete. Now, why do people participate in athletics? We discussed this 2 or 3 weeks ago. Athletics give a person the opportunity to have structure. What's the structure? Like right now, you see my kids are just like doing cartwheels and stuff like that over here in the masjid that they shouldn't be doing. They're doing all this. But when they go on Tuesdays to the gymnastics class, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. Wednesdays, my bad. It gives them structure. It gives them an opportunity to take that fire and that energy and take it out properly. That's why you see at 1:10, I always leave. Because they can't do this when people are praying. This is an open ground right now. When people are praying, it's improper. It goes against the structure. So I take them, I take them somewhere else. Either we pray at a different masjid where there's a different kids area, or I'll just take them home, and then I'll come back and pray with you guys, which you'll see. I'll leave them attended with someone. I won't leave them unattended. I have older children as well. But the structure, what does it allow you to do? Some of that energy inside has to be let out. If you are a youth who has all these energies, you have hormones running through you. You have just energy that comes with age. You have frustration sometimes with messing up a little in school or in the household, and it's bottled up. It will not be used in a productive manner. So what did his dad do? He made his energy productive. He took it out in sports. Sport doesn't mean just playing basketball. If you say sport right now, everyone says basketball. That's like this Muslim Desi Chicago mentality. It's not. Sport is any physical activity that you can become accustomed to implementing in your life for some type of productive end. Some of you might be martial arts. Some of you might be gymnastics. For me, I like roller hockey. Yeah.
Or like volleyball.
Volleyball, yes, yeah, volleyball, or whatever the case may be. Some of you might be grappling. Some of you might be weightlifting.
Oh, look, put your feet in the sand.
I put your feet in the sands, yes. Okay, so, there's going to be one more. Yes. Golf, yes. Oh, that golf's not a sport. Just joking. No more. You already gave me one. So, it's a way for you to take out energy. And this was within the time of the Prophet ﷺ as well. We know the Sahaba radiallahu anhum engaged in physical endeavors. They rode horses. They bareback rode horses. Umar radiallahu anhu used to encourage his companions that when you come on the horse, don't always put the saddle on. Why? Because sport should also be functional, and it should be... No, keep this on, please. I'm sorry. Oh, even when I'm done speaking, I'm going to put mine back on, okay? I'm sorry. You can loosen the ends if you want a little.
And so I take some of my toys.
So there should be some end to it. So Umar radiallahu anhu used to encourage that when you ride the horse, ride it without the saddle. Why? Because sometimes it might come to that situation. And as mentioned on multiple occasions, the Prophet ﷺ, in a couple of hadith, we see that in Madinah Munawwara, one early morning prior to Fajr, so late night, early morning, there's a loud explosion, a clang, some strange sound from the outskirts of the city. And the Sahaba actually came to the masjid, they gathered and they began to think, what should we do? They finally realized we should go investigate. They got their weapons, they got their horses, they went to go investigate. They see coming from a distance a rider. He's riding bareback, meaning no saddle. Hair is flowing, sword is there, and he's riding saying, get back, everything's taken care of. Meaning it was the Prophet ﷺ. And he's already telling them what? That I took care of it, it's fine. But what did he do? He didn't come and say, okay, now let me put the saddle on, etc. Emergency situation required emergency reaction. And if the person's always developing horse riding skills based on the saddle, they're not going to be successful in times of need. Similarly to those individuals who only go running, for example, without shoes. You should go to Cameron Park and run with shoes. You should go to Cameron Park sometimes and run without shoes. In fact, even functionally for like your fascia and other parts of your body, having no shoes when you run actually helps build your fascia and certain muscles that surround it. Why is this necessary? Look, na'udhu billah, thumma na'udhu billah. Some kids are playing outside and someone takes a child and we're like at the masjid door and we see it. We sit down, put our shoes, tie our shoes, loop it up and then go run? No, you just race out. Now, if a person doesn't have that experience, then what's going to happen? Then they're not going to be able to do it. So it should be functional in its training and functional in its existence. It shouldn't just be ideal. If all we can do is throw a ball through a hoop and someone, for example, steals a wallet, you're not going to tell your friend, go hold a hoop over his head, let me throw a ball, hit him in the head, he'll fall over. It's not going to work that way. There should be functional reality to it as well. And that's what his father was doing. All the sambo training, the wrestling, etc., was functional reality to what he was trying to achieve, which was a lifestyle that was balanced. And so his father, he played football, volleyball, football here meaning soccer, table tennis, they were all his favorite sports, but more than that, they were immersing in a sports culture. And we need that here, and we need to encourage it for our adults, or adults. Everyone always, all my students hate when I say adults. Our adults, our elders, and our youth as well. Everyone should have an exposure to some physical use of their body. Not everyone will be first place, right? Not everyone will be on top of their game in this reality. We see Hassan bin Thabit radiallahu anhu, he was not a fighter. He was not. It just wasn't his mizaj. But doesn't mean that he should not have any type of introduction to anything. You know, when I had visited Turkey this past summer to go with my wife for her work, just to walk to the masjid, I guarantee you, if we took our entire masjid here, less than 10% we will walk to the masjid. We were in the Fatih district in the Sulaimani area to go to Sulaimani Masjid. It's on top of the mountain. And I work out daily, multiple times a day. And I would stop short of breath. And I work out multiple times a day. Right? My part-time job, I'm a trainer now. I can't, it was so hard. It was so hard. And the people there, the elderly ladies, the middle-aged ladies, they were walking up no problem whatsoever. And all the tourists and foreigners were the ones on the side just like massaging out our quads a little because it was a rough walk. And I think my wife took like a one clip us walking from our hotel to the masjid, how much of an incline it was. And those of you who've been there before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes? If you want to take out your mask, just go to the shoe area, take off your mask over there, okay? And you can breathe a little over there. You get a mask break over there.
I'm going to take off my mask.
In the shoe area. Take your mask break over there. Anyway, we're leaving in a couple minutes, okay? So anyway, he was very successful in this, and he's very practical in this. And they created a culture. And that culture transcended merely sport on field. He also was a great chess player. I know there's a debate about chess. I'm not going to say halal, haram, even though ulama have debates on it. Whatever. But he didn't want to just strengthen his body. He wanted to strengthen his mind as well, his acumen, his precision. He worked on all of that. And so from the very get-go, he ran, he said that, he's a track star as well. He's very, very well known within his community, or was well known. Allah yarhamhu, he passed away. And so eventually what that did was it gave him an avenue, an inroad to his community. People trusted him. People saw his success. And they wanted him now to be able to help out others the same way. And what was the avenue? Well, wrestling. In Russia, wrestling is huge. In fact, in the Muslim world, wrestling is quite huge as well. You'll see Dagestani wrestlers in the Olympics. You'll see Iranian wrestlers in the Olympics, Iraqi wrestlers in the Olympics. Turkish wrestlers will be in the Olympics. The physical body is a very important part within Islamic culture as well, Islamic lifestyle as well. And so by the time he reached 8th grade, he had already won one wrestling championship. At 52 kilograms, what is that? It's about 108 pounds, 106 pounds. So he was already wrestling as well. And what that did was that opened him up. What did it open him up to? To people paying attention to him. The second thing was his training. Every morning he would get up and he would run 4 kilometers a morning, no matter what. Now what that also does was that it, morning and evening, twice a day. It gave him a regimented schedule. So he knew what he was going to do, when he was going to do it. How many of us every day want to read Quran? How many of us sometimes struggle and miss that day of Quran? If you have your hand raised, or in your mind at least, it's probably because you don't have a set time. If we say Fajr, that's our Quran time, you will read Quran at Fajr. If you say, I'll read it sometime after Dhuhr before I go to sleep, you're not going to read it. How many of us want to work out? How many of us have a set time to work out? If you do, you probably do it regularly. If you don't, you probably miss workouts. How many of us want to study for some MCAT, LSAT, or something, or even just for school? If you don't have a set time for studying, you're not going to do it. So what he did was he allowed us to set his schedule to be regimented in order to become better in general as a person. And that's in all areas. So it's 108 over here. I'm going to wrap this up right now. We're going to cover chapter 3 and 4 next week, inshallah. Are we going to do outdoor next week, or are we going to keep it indoor? I knew it was going to be raining today. So how many of you would, if we're outdoor and it's warm, would come for the basketball, soccer, football stuff? Okay. How many of you, if we're indoor, would come for the table tennis and stuff? Not as much? Okay, yeah. So we'll keep an eye on weather. Stay on the WhatsApp list. update you. If it's raining or cold, then we're just gonna start at 12:30. 12:30 means 12:35 when we normally start. 12:30 is when we come in and we'll do etc. Right? Zayd, Uthman, go ahead, get their shoes on. We're gonna get going to the car, okay? I can't have them like this during prayer. And then we'll continue. Oh wait, no, next week we're not meeting. Next week we're not meeting. Can you check if you want to do it online? I can do it online. I'm gonna be out of town next week. I'm going to Ohio next week. So now that you're here, I'm leaving. So, Noman, next week I have to be out of town, but I can do it online. That's fine. I'm going to be in Ohio. I'm pretty positive I won't be back in time. I think I'll be back around 2 or 3. But
I'll confirm with you.
yeah, confirm, because if you want to do it online, it's very easy for me just to do it online. All my classes, I'm still doing all the online ones on Sunday.
Okay.
So
I'll confirm from our side how we can stream out.
yeah, because if you can, if there's a way where I can be a guest on, do you use Zoom or what's the streaming service you use? Use YouTube Live. The way I've done it before on YouTube Live is the masjid where I used to work just gave me the password and I would just log in and do it from there. Yeah, so just confirm that if that's possible. If not, you can do it through Zoom and you can mirror it over there, but I don't know how that's done. Yeah, inshallah. Cool, guys, inshallah. I was happy to see some of you yesterday. It was nice last night. What time? Till 11 o'clock you guys hung out here? Yeah, it was good. The hot chocolate made the coolness a lot more bearable yesterday. Okay. Is today the meeting? Today's not the meeting, right? Okay.
That's next.
2 weeks, right? Yeah, 3 weeks, okay.
Today's the program for making up for the foster care.
Oh, nice. Oh, I gotta come back for that one. Okay, ciao.
Right after Zohar.
Okay, I gotta hurry back. Okay. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallah bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk, wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah. Yes, I'll be back by Zohar.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله